welcome back. So this video is going to be unlike anything I have ever done before. Right now I'm actually in the middle of rescuing an entire hive out of someone's wall, and I had one of my Nook boxes with me. I already packed it full, and the hive is from floor to ceiling. So I'm going to grab my regular size hive here. I also have another brood box in the back of the what is this? Defender, Can-Am, and I'm probably going to fill both of them with this swarm. And I'm probably going to fill both of them with this hive in the wall. It is gigantic, so let's get to it. Okay, so as you can see, I have already started on this. I've torn out a probably 7 or 8 inch by 3 foot section of wall already. So my main goal is to find the queen, get as much comb out as we can, but also not tear any more than this section of wall out if we can. They are planning on going through and tearing the wall out, re-insulating and adding drywall, but the least amount of damage I can do, the better. So I had started with my green Nook here, and I'm just taking a comb out, putting them in frames with rubber bands around it. But as I was going on, I realized I had already filled 4 out of 5 frames on this, and that I was gonna need extra, so I just went and grabbed a full-size box that I'll put all this in with another brood box for the top of it. I had started pulling out comb and setting it down, just looking for the queen. So if I can find her, most of the brood, get them in the box, then I can just start tearing out some comb, trying to save as much as I can. But anything I can't, or anything I'm trying to not tear out any more wall, I will just rip out and dispose of, so the homeowner doesn't have to worry about it. Alright, so with how this is going, I think it's safe to say the bees had moved most of the way up the wall, so I'm going to go up a little bit higher with it. Hive tools, great for renovations. Yeah, the comb is still going up the wall, so I'm gonna have to go even higher. I'm really trying to take out the least amount of wall I can, but there's no way to get it all out without going higher. So I have already worked on this for about an hour, and as you can see, it is a huge project. So now from here up, it looks like we're getting into honey. So basically, we still have some brood and eggs down here, and we still have a lot more eggs and brood under the window here. So it looks like I'm going to cut about here, go down and start working down below, because most likely my queen is down below where the new eggs and brood is. And that's mainly what we're after. If we can't find the queen and also take all the eggs and brood, the bees could swarm back here, or they could make a new queen. Okay, now since we have, I'm pretty sure, almost all the brood and larvae gone from up top, I'm going to start working down and see if I can't find that queen. I believe I got this detached somewhat. Come on. Oh yeah, there we go. Now, the fact that the bees just got very, very loud when I pulled this out, it's a very good chance that the queen is somewhere on this or underneath it. We're gonna lose some here. Take these pieces off. There we go. This is mostly capped brood. Might be some eggs down in there I can't really see. So she probably wasn't down here, but there's a very good chance she's down here and laying now. Where she is the question though. So the idea of the rubber bands is the bees will connect their comb to the frame to secure it, and then over time the bees will actually eat away at these rubber bands, getting rid of them. They like a nice clean hive, and to them the rubber bands are a little messy, so they'll take care of that. And there's another one. Alright, so now I just want to check over all these pieces, make sure there isn't a queen bee on them somewhere. Hopefully not squished. Right there. Nice. See her right there? That's our queen bee right there, so I'm going to put her in her trap. Where are you, little bugger? Okay, queen bee is trying to hide here. And there we go. So sadly I did kind of off another bee while doing it. But that's what we're after when we're trying to get bees out of your wall. It's the queen bee. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I get the rest of the eggs and brood out of this wall. Put her in my hive over there, so while I'm working, the bees will try to find her and smell her pheromone and actually start migrating to the hive itself on their own. So the last thing I need to do is make sure I get all the eggs and larvae out of this wall, because if I don't, these bees will just, any bees surviving, will just make a new queen and make a new hive. So we don't want that to happen, so we're going to do our best to clean it out. Time-wise, I don't have enough time to try and mark her through this trap. It probably won't go too well. So for now, for safekeeping, we'll just kind of slide her right between these two frames here, and the bees will start swarming to her pretty quick. So I still have a lot of comb to throw in frames and pull out of the wall, but there's still a lot of bees in here. So what I'm going to do is just slowly take a scoop of bees. Oh, these gentle little bees! And throw them in the brood box here. I hope the homeowner doesn't mind a room that smells like honey and bananas, because they'll release a scent that smells just like bananas when they die and they're in danger, to let other bees know there's danger near. And clearly I've definitely killed a lot of bees while doing this. A lot of them have stung me. There's a stinger in my hand right there. Alright, so as I keep going, all I'm doing is going back to bees that are starting to bunch up, grabbing them like so, and just kind of sprinkling them in the hive box here, just to make sure I keep up on it. I want to get a good amount of bees in the box. That way, more bees there are in the hive box, the more they can fan the queen's pheromone, which will call the rest of the bees into the box. And then I'll just have to leave the box for a couple hours and come back later to pick it up. That way I can get as many bees out of here as possible. Okay, so now we got the queen bee. We got all the brood frames or brood comb in our deeps here. I also got quite a bit of honey in there as well, and a pile of honey and old comb in the lid of my nuke here. I did have to make another hole here because this was, I saw bees going in between the wood to this other section and they just had this filled with comb. There was a little bit of honey, but most of it was very, very old comb, almost from the floor to ceiling once again. So I'm going to open this window here so bees can fly in and out. There's also a window there, and over there I'll open as well. That way they can either leave the house or get to these two deeps right here with the queen and all their brood in it. And then I'll be back in a couple hours to pick this up. Hopefully most of these bees will go in this box by then, and I'll get it out of here for the homeowner. Okay, so I'm back to get the hive, but also see how many of these bees I can sweep into the bee box before I take off with them, just so there's less bees for the homeowner to have to either vacuum up off the floor or wait for them to fly out the window. So they actually had this light cover completely filled up with dead bees. I mean, right to the brim, thousands of bees that were actually being cooked by the light. So I took this down. I'm going to use it to kind of sweep the bees onto it and then just kind of drop them over the hive so I can get as many as possible. There are quite a few back in the hole here still have the queen in the trap, as well as all their brood. These small bees did go to the box, but obviously this was a very large hive, and there's probably at least 30,000 bees that were in this wall. So to get 30,000 bees into a hive is quite complicated, but we'll get as many as we can. So as you can see, as I drop the bees on these, they're actually climbing down into the frames as they find and smell the queen's pheromones, and that will help them to stay in the hive while I clean up all their little friends here. Okay, I have the top brood box ready to go. I just used my top board underneath here. Use painter tape on the hole down below, as well as the roof here, and that way I can walk through the house with hopefully not losing any bees, but maybe one or two, and then I'll come back for the bottom box with the top piece here, and then I'll put them together down in the side by side. Alright, so this is a pile of just empty comb, as well as some comb with honey in it, that I didn't feel like it was worth trying to save because the hive was so massive. So I'm going to throw this right on top of my green nook here. That way all the bees can basically be robber bees, and they'll come steal this honey, maybe some of the wax, and they'll reuse it back in their own hives. So it won't go to waste, but I definitely won't want to mess around with putting this in rubber bands and putting it in the hive. So as you can see, there's a lot of other bees in here now with the queen bee. Basically, they're just in there to try and take care of her, clean her, feed her, all of that. So what I'm going to do for now is leave her in this clip inside the hive. I'll come back tomorrow and I will mark her and release her. I think she should be fine because all her brood is in here, all the bees are, and the queen. But just to be sure, I'm going to leave her in here just so the bees know home is home now and where to go, and then go from there. All right, there we go. I just gotta run back, clean up the rest of the bees in that room real quick for the homeowner so they don't have to deal with them. Since they don't have a bee suit, they obviously wouldn't wanna wait a couple days for them to all clear out. So if I can clear out as many as I can now, should only be a day or so before the rest pretty well clear out or die. Okay, so I know this is definitely going to hurt some people's feelings, but if I was a homeowner, I wouldn't want to be left with this many bees still in the house, so I brought my shop vac to clean the rest up. I definitely got the majority of them, but with a hive that big, clearly I couldn't get every bee, and there's still a lot of bees left in here. So the shop vac most likely will kill them. Some people will set up a special bee shop vac or a bee vac that will suck up all the bees without harming them. I don't have anything like that, but to help my neighbor out, we're just gonna vacuum up the rest of the bees and make sure they're taken care of. Okay, so it's been about 2 days now since I saved this hive out of the wall of my neighbor's house. So I meant to do this yesterday, but life happens and it just finally stopped raining. And as I got to the top of the hill here, the sun finally came out. So I won't be opening this hive in a more darker situation, but the bees probably still won't be too happy with me. So I need to let the queen out of her queen trap, and I'm gonna try and mark her as I do that as well, and just see how they seem to be doing in their new hive. Alright, so we already know where the queen is. She's between the two brood boxes here, so we're just gonna do a real quick check as we go. See how they're looking. This was my first time doing something like this, so I'm not quite sure what to expect with the comb, so I'm kind of curious on how they're going to attach the comb to the frames and then what they're going to do with the rubber bands here. So I did get a little brood up top. There are some honeybees up top here. So as you can see, there's just a decent amount of honey up top here. So the rubber bands are cutting a little bit into. But they don't look too bad. Alright, now we'll grab the queen, get her marked, and then leave this hive alone for about a week. I will have to do a varroa mite check, just with these being wild bees. I really don't want them bringing in a ton of varroa mite, mostly with my hives doing so well, having almost no varroa mite. I don't know. So, I think I waited too long. I really wanted to do this yesterday, but I didn't get to it, and I got called away. It looks like the queen I pulled from the wall may have died, It actually looked like she looks kind of wet. So I wonder if too much honey drained down on her and actually just about drowned her. That's too bad. So I do have an entrance reducer here, but knowing this wheat hive is a little bit weaker, I'm actually going to make it even smaller. This way the bees can just easily defend themselves against robber bees from other hives coming and stealing their honey as they make a new queen. Sure, bees hate this. Okay, so that just gives it a nice small hole. That'll make it very, very easy for this hive to defend itself because it's quite a big hive. There's still quite a few bees in there, but it is a very big space for the amount of bees that are now in this hive. Alright, so the bee extraction out of the house was a success, but sadly, leaving my queen in that queen trap, my goal was to make sure her pheromones were in the hive, even though it was probably in the comb pretty well. But I really wanted to make sure the hive stayed and they didn't swarm back to the neighbor's house. But in doing so, I had the queen trap underneath a bunch of the honeycomb I had shoved in there. And sadly, a lot of that honey that came out of the cells slowly dripped down on her cage, and they probably drowned her. So sadly, that was a huge mistake. They still have a lot of brood in there and a lot of honey, so they should make a new queen cell and come back from this, hopefully. So it kind of sucks to lose the queen from that, but I think they'll do well.